PlayStation 2 has brought about incredible advances in video game technology. Along with these advances come new challenges. Game makers are finding new and different ways of tapping into the hidden powers of the PlayStation 2 graphics engine. When working on Cool Borders 2001, Sony Computer Entertainment decided to scan the faces of professional riders directly into the game. The result? The most realistic pro riders of any snowboarding game.
For the face scanning part of Cool Borders, we did about 8 professional riders. We did Barrett Christie, Todd Richards, Kevin Jones, and several others. And then we did about 13 people that were non-riders, just to have a good variety of heads for the game.
Having the pro riders face scans lends us the opportunity to have all kinds of introductory animations where you see the riders preparing for their run, adjusting their shirts, collars. It really lends itself well to the beginning and end of each run.
For those of you who are not familiar with this amazing technology, we asked the team to show us how they go about scanning someone's face.
In order to scan a head, we bring the talent in and they sit in the chair, and we have a camera that projects a beam of light right onto their face. We capture 9 or 10 different angles, and what you have to do is you take like a front angle and then they twist around in a circle, and we get every different angle because you can't actually get a whole head in one shot. The camera senses the heat. It comes back with like a heat sensing photo. It reads the depths and the light, so the nose will show up red because it sticks out further. Further back it gets cooler shades, and then there's another lens on there that actually takes the capture. I take the pieces and I cut out the usable parts and I build the whole thing and I piece it together and end up with a 3D model, a nice mesh head. Once I get it basically patched together, And then I have to go through and fill in any holes and gaps and that kind of stuff. And then we apply the texture.
The realism definitely blew us away, but we wanted to know what some of the real snowboarders thought about their character's likeness.
After each rider got his head scanned, they always want to go check it out. They're usually pretty shocked at how close it is, and some of them are pretty scared that that's what they actually look like in 3 dimensions.
That's really weird. That's wrong. You said you're going to be able to make little beings out of computers.
Their head will be spinning around on the computer, and they just can't believe it, how much it actually looks like them, and they all want to know, am I really going to look like that in the game? And they get real excited and can't wait to see it and play it themselves.
Getting the most realistic looking face is only one part of the equation. Since realism is such an important part of a game like Cool Borders 2001, they also need to get the moves right. This is where having one of the largest in-house motion capture studios in the world comes in handy.
The studio itself, I've heard that it's the second biggest in the world, and it's roughly about 60 by 40, and our hot zone is about 30 feet by 20 feet, which is one of the larger ones. We use a 15 camera Vicon system to accommodate all our motion capture needs.
Capturing moves for sports games like football and basketball is easy, but how do you go about capturing a sport that involves flips and jumping off cliffs?
The way we get all of our grabs and flips and tricks into the game, we actually set up an 18-foot trampoline in our motion capture studio.
We actually had to make a special snowboard that was actually something a bit smaller to basically attach to the actor's feet.
Then we had Todd Richards come down and bounce on the trampoline until he got enough air, then he'd throw one of the grabs out. And then after we get all that data, we remove the vertical data so that it just looks like he's grabbing, and then we can position him in the world with our physics.
Well, from what we've seen, Sony Computer Entertainment is pushing the envelope of the technology, and we can't wait to see what comes next.
Cool Borders is actually the first game that we've tried to use this technology in. It's all brand new to us here, and everybody's still learning what we can do with it. We're not only doing heads, we're going to start trying to do arms and hands and objects themselves, like footballs or baseballs even, and to try to get the most realistic looking stuff out of this system. And there's other things coming in, and there's going to be facial motion capture, so we can actually mark up a face, and then we can capture that person talking, and then you'll get their real facial expressions and their real phrases, and there's a lot of exciting stuff going on, and we're still learning here what exactly we can do with all of it.
Yeah, I know all the other riders in the game, and they're people I ride with all the time, so it'll be fun to challenge me against Todd or Tara and see what happens, because I think we can all do a lot more in the video game than we can in real life.
Star Wars movies as we are, you've probably daydreamed once or twice about being part of an epic space battle. Well, thanks to the team at LucasArts, that daydream is now virtually a reality. They've created Starfighter, the flight combat game that lets you star as the pilot of your very own Starfighter from Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But don't forget to strap yourself in. Starfighter is being powered by the PlayStation 2 and an incredible storyline.
Just a blockade, there's a full-scale invasion going on.
We start off a little bit before Episode 1, Phantom Menace starts. And we kind of follow a parallel storyline that's behind the scenes, kind of.
The story is about 3 characters, Reese, Vanna, and Nim. Those are 3 characters who don't know each other. Reese is a Navus fighter pilot who's training. Nim is a pirate. And Vanna is a mercenary out for hire. And these are characters who, if they know each other, it's only loosely, and in fact, Nim and Vanna are kind of semi-enemies.
Think you can flank the Vanna Sage? Yeah. And each of these three characters has been wronged in some way or has been screwed over by the Trade Federation. Midway through the Starfighter game, after you've learned exactly what the Trade Federation has done to tick these guys off, the three characters, Vanna, Reese, and Nim, come together and in concert work to deal a little bit back at the Trade Federation.
What makes a video game great, besides awesome visuals, are fascinating characters and well-thought-out storylines. Starfighter not only has both, but it goes one step further and intertwines the stories of these three main characters.
We're approaching a training minefield. They'll give you a chance to familiarize yourself with your targeting system.
And you follow this one pilot, Reese Dallos, kind of through his training, and then his royal escort, and then he kind of gets split off from the events of the movie onto his own storyline.
And I think at that point the player is sort of wondering, what are these three characters and what do they have to do with each other? And that's one of the things that we tell through the structure of the game is as a play they start to go, oh, okay, now I see how these two characters are related, I see how they're going to come together and they're going to work together towards the ultimate goals.
Well, Nim, my know-it-all co-pilot is just taking out the landing platform first.
The player starts out playing a number of missions from each character in turn, and then when the characters join forces, we start just beating them, right and left with new characters. And play this character and you go back to this character, and that allows us to tell this story from a bunch of different points of view.
The LucasArts team is no stranger to designing ships for space, and most of the ones in Starfighter are based on designs from the movie. The challenge they had to come up with was a vehicle for Nim and the other pirates.
We needed to come up with a whole new line of vehicles that were around the pirates. We wanted them to have a very distinctive look, a cohesive look. And what we came up with is something that looks like 60s hot rods, with cool paint jobs, but then there's Bondo on the side, and there's big giant engines on them.
They really are like painting your own car, big flames on the side. They all have their unique look for the character, all kind of metal and over the top, and you can tell that it looks like they all painted their own vehicle.
As in any flight combat game, control is critical, and no one knows that better than this creative team. With Starfighter, their mission was to find a way to help those who might find themselves flying upside down, or worse.
We wanted a game that allowed the player to fly around in any dimension, so if they want to fly up and do a loop or flip over upside down, we wanted to give them complete freedom in the environment. But one of the challenges that creates for some players is they'll get upside down and it's difficult for them to get flipped back around. For Starfighter, we realized we couldn't restrict the player without frustrating the player, but at the same time we wanted to give them the ability to get themselves righted really quickly. So we added some buttons. When you actually push down on the analog controllers and right yourself, you can right yourself with roll and you right yourself in pitch, and so you can get yourself squared up to the terrain and flying forward.
Starfighter is the first PlayStation 2 game from LucasArts. We were interested in knowing what it was like to work with this powerful platform.
We were able to throw just enormous amounts of texture and geometry at the screen. And when you look out in these environments that just seem to go on forever, that's just the raw power of the PlayStation.
Working with PlayStation 2 is, you don't know the boundaries. I didn't know how far to push it. I'm used to doing like Nintendo games and PlayStation games, and there's those barriers that everybody realizes. So I just kind of keep pushing until the programmers tell me to stop.
And the philosophy on the Starfighter team is essentially this. The programming team is at the service of the art and level design team. I like to think of it as, we build picture frames. Ultimately, the art team and the level design team makes the picture, and that's the important thing.
How about this size texture? What about this geometry count? Can we have particle systems, and what kind of effects can we have? And it almost seemed limitless.
In the past, you really had to worry about the number of particles you had in a particle system. These days, you can put a lot of particles up there and not really worry too much about slowing the game down. In fact, that's kind of a danger, of course. You want to make sure that you're not just saying, oh, well, I can draw a million particles, why don't I? It all has to be in service of the gameplay, and it all has to be done in a context that it makes sense. And so what that really implies is we need to do everything we can to take all this tremendous power that we've got with the PlayStation 2 and put it into the hands of the artists, put it into the hands of the level designers, expose that stuff in a generic and flexible way. And, we suspected that if we did that well, we'd be surprised. And were we ever.
Man all defenses, prep the transports for evac. Hustle!
Affirmative. Hostiles approaching from orbit. We've got landers, 12 o'clock high.
We have a pirate base mission, NIM Pirate Base, which is inside of a double impact crater.
And his base is kind of snugged up against the walls, and you have ships down there and docking facilities. And the Trade Federation comes in, and they are trying to get back some stolen technology, and they raid NIM's base in the middle of the night.
And in just comes massive amounts of Trade Federation forces. It's very clear very quickly that, of course, the pirate base is not going to survive, and at that point it becomes an extremely hectic, frantic scramble to get people out of that base as quickly as possible.
It's dark, you see lit up buildings, you see lights. All of a sudden, turrets start going crazy, and things are coming in from space, and it's black up there, and all you see is shadows of big landers coming down. They're kind of blocking out the stars, and you see tracers going across the sky. I mean, it looks like a war zone, and you've got people yelling and screaming. I think the whole experience is extremely immersive for me.
Scratch that, sir. Got him on my sensors. Help him out.
Dim, I'm sending you the target. Get this guy.
Hi, I have a cool move for SSX for the PlayStation 2. Now at the beginning of the Tokyo Megaplex stage, there's a fan that blows your racer up to the next part of the stage. Now the camera angle may try to fool you, but you do actually have full control of your character during this airtime. Now you can use this airtime to really rack up a really high score that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. The fan comes up fairly quick in the stage. In fact, it's right here. Now you lose sight of your character, but as you can see, the score keeps racking up, and if you continue doing moves, you can get a really, really high score. In fact, you can actually rail, like I did right here, and get a really high score.
Checkpoint!
And that's pretty much it. Give it a try. I know you'll get a great score.
Hi, the cool move I'd like to show you today is for the PlayStation 2 game called Silent Scope. This is a cool move that PC players will appreciate because you can use a USB device such as a mouse to control the crosshairs while you play the game. One of the things I like to do is with my left hand use the L1 button on the DualShock controller to zoom in and out. With my right hand, I'll use it to aim the crosshairs and to fire my rifle. I find that this will give me more control in creating headshots and gunshots, which results in higher points.
Take him out and save the president's daughter. Over.
See how easy that was? Now you give it a try.
Jampacks.